Good morning. I'm going to be using the air blast today to take on the mites. I mean, even getting into my vehicle, I've got mites, and I'm going to have to pressure wash and clean off the utility vehicle. It's really annoying. So anyway, I'll be loading the pressure washer in a few minutes. Going to switch to that. It's been a good deal. I like it. I only use it once or twice a year, but sometimes I think it's just the right thing. And I bought it primarily for insecticides to get up into the canopy, more of the foliage coverage. And honestly, it appears it doesn't use as much. I only mixed up 5 gallons of what I'm using, which is an insecticidal soap laced with permethrin. It'll be quick. It doesn't last very long. With some rain coming, it's going to be washed off. It's going to be gone tomorrow. But I'm hoping it'll be a knockdown. And that's all I can hope for. So let's take a look at what I got in the back. Okay, this is what's in the back. The two jugs are actually now a premix, 2.5 gallons each, to go into the tank on the backpack. The tank on the backpack holds almost 4 gallons. It's pretty heavy. You don't really want to carry it with that much weight in it, because by the time they advertise it at the dry weight, but the wet weight's much heavier. So I got a gas can. It's got fuel in it. I have not started it yet for this season. I will test start it before I load it, but it promises to be a good time. The nice thing about the utility vehicle is that rear shelf is just the right height for me to back up to it to get the backpack. I don't have to lift it off the ground. So if you have a little vehicle like this, you're going this route, make it work. That shelf is a really handy work platform. I want to show you this. It's really important. This is your flow control valve that's located up front by the volute. All right, and you'll see on there in Arabic numerals, we're being invaded, Arabic numerals 1, 2, 3, 4. When I flush it on 4. When I went out today and I started, I forgot to check this, and I was really hosing down the trees and wasting material. So when you're done, you want to remember, put it back to 1. Okay, you got other stuff on your mind when you're spraying. All right, so when I'm done cleaning, it goes back to 1. If you're wondering what the flow rate can be, it's right up here on the sticker, and it's a quart. It's a quart on 1, and it's a full gallon on 4. So if I had left it on 4, I would have run my tank dry in just a little over 2 minutes, and I'd had soaking wet trees, and I would have wasted a lot of material. So be sure to check your flow rate position number and choose it according to your needs. One other thing they mention in the instruction manual, which you all read, is if you take the flow control valve down here, the on-off valve, leave it closed, right angle to the flow rate, and run the unit at full volume, full rate, for about a minute. And what that does is it pressurizes the tank. And by pressurizing the tank, you're going to get a more steady flow coming through your hose. It really does make a difference. It's essential if you have a tall tree. You want to do 2 things. You're going to want to pressurize the tank, maybe longer than 1 minute, and you may want to increase your flow control, okay? Because the more fluid you get in there, it has more to bite into, it has more to kick, and this thing will loft pretty high. Now the thing is, you don't want to have any breeze, or you certainly want to have the wind at your back, okay? Definitely. Okay, a little last minute stuff here. I got to clean this thing out. To my ears, I don't know what I've been doing the last couple of minutes. Just music to my ears, starting right up. I had the switch off, choked it, primed it with the primer bulb, gave it 3 slow pulls, just nice and slow. Then turned the switch on, gave it 2 quick pulls, started right up, let it come up to an idle, turn it off the choke, and she's smooth. Okay, a little truth in advertising. Once you shut down, it can be difficult to restart. I have not tried loading it with the engine running. Honestly, I don't see a reason why I couldn't. And I may do that in the future. Obviously, you don't refuel while the engine's running. So I'm letting it rest a little bit. It seems to start up just fine when it cools down. I may order a spare coil for it, just in case, you know, for the spark plug. And the other thing too is there's a gasket underneath the fill cap, and that gasket's a separate unit. Now we know gaskets dry out. That might also be a nice thing to have in a spare parts kit. So I share that with you. Not sure where to go with that, but yeah, I got the spark on, primed it again. It won't start again. I don't know. If you look down in the line, you'll see the foam is being replaced by liquid. And that's one reason you don't want to let that valve go open while you're loading, because it will gravity feed from the tank and end up all over the ground. Yes, it started up. It started up fine. The need time to cool down. It seems to vapor lock a little bit because of heat. I put the throttle to full, and that with some choking and priming, and eventually vroom, it started right up. I'm also letting it run for a few minutes after I've used it at high R's to cool down. So now what I need to do is take it up to the house, fill it with water, and flush the lines out. Not only to decontaminate it, but also to just make sure there's nothing left behind in there that would not work well with something else. The using empty insecticide jugs with mild products in them. Serenade ASO is a biological. Des X is really just the same thing as what I ran through it, except it doesn't have the permethrin, or pyrethroid. Anyway, it doesn't have it. So I'm going to relabel these jugs with NFPA stickers on them to say Air Blast Preload. And they will get a triple clean after I use this. So I could have done the entire orchard with 20 gallons using the Air Blast. Not really enough for a foliar feeding, but certainly enough for an insecticidal application. Yes, those are my gloves, always at the ready. I'm happy with it. If you're following this thread, it is a good product. Just don't get frustrated starting it. Do try to be methodical. Do press the priming bulb that you know is buried down here underneath the carburetor. You'll find it. Press it until you don't see bubbles coming out, so you know you've got, you've got a good fuel in the carburetor. Start with it choked. I would say 2 or 3 slow pulls with the ignition off. Then turn the ignition on, that little switch up here on the handle. All right, turn the ignition on, start trying. As soon as it takes off, give it a few moments with the choke on, and then slowly undo the choke, and it should smooth right out. And it does run smooth. I will say that it doesn't accelerate as fast as a weed eater, if that's what you're used to. But remember, this thing's got a big fan attached to it, so it's got to fight to bring it up to speed. Yeah. So, nice product, worth the money, uses less product. If you've been wand spraying, just kind of figure you're going to use half as much. One option too for loading this, if you don't want to use jugs like that, and you have a small sprayer, like a 15 gallon or something, calculate how much you're going to need, put it into the small sprayer, take this out with you, and use the small sprayer, pump it to load this sprayer. Just another way to make up a larger batch and to come back and keep loading. And of course, if you have a friend you trust to help you load the tank, you don't have to take it off and do it yourself. So that's always nice to have some help. Okay, I had some trouble starting it, and The solution was kind of an old school 2-cycle thing. Had a fouled spark plug. Now this spark plug for me is the same spark plug that I use in my chainsaw. And my chainsaw tool fits this beautifully. So it's called a scrunch. I kind of recommend if you keep a separate kit, you know, when you're using this, you keep tools around for it. I certainly recommend that you have a spare spark plug, and I recommend that you have a scrunch handy. Now, because things happen, I keep my spark plug inside of a medicine bottle. And that way, if things start getting wet or something, it doesn't mess up my spark plug. So when I pulled it out of here, it was as good as new. It was just ready and waiting. So that's a tip.